To any artist that needs to hear this, stop throwing away leftover paint and put plastic wrap over your palette and just keep it in your freezer, and your paint should stay good for a long time.
Pencil tips part 1. With the non-layering side, I applied the same hard pressure straight away, leaving harsh edges. This will make it harder to further blend the pencil as it's already been burnished. With the layering side, I lightly shaded the pencil, slowly building up the pigment. By gradually overlapping the colours, it makes the blending smoother.
So it's time to talk about the biggest mystery for artists, which is what are those canvas wedges for? Most artists just toss them in a drawer or throw them out, but they can actually be pretty useful to tighten the tension of your canvas. When you put them in, you expand the wooden frame by just 1 millimeter or so, just enough to tighten the surface tension of the canvas. As a heavier-handed painter, I tend to put them in after I finish the painting, but you can put them in before you start or keep them aside, because most canvases become loose over time. And the wedges mean you can tighten the canvas without restretching it. Just don't take them out once they're in.
3 art mistakes you need to stop doing right now in order for you to become a better artist. Now let's get started. Okay, so the first mistake I see a lot of artists do is chicken scratch lining. Basically, chicken scratching is when you make a lot of small little lines in order to create a larger line. Instead, try doing much longer and precise lines to give your line art a much more cleaner and refined look. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can do it. The next tip is not using construction lines. A lot of new artists try drawing just the outline of their figure or whatever they're creating. It gives the drawing a really wonky look because you're not laying down the foundation first before you go into line art, and it makes your drawing look terrible. So instead of doing that, lay down the foundation first, you know what I'm saying? The construction lines, use the guidelines first, and then you get a much better drawing in the end. And yeah, the last and final tip is stop choking your pencil. Right here is a horrible grip for your hand. Instead, go for a much looser grip that's like halfway in between the pencil, and you
Here's a neat trick you can try next time you're drawing with a Pilot parallel pen. Did you know that the parallel pen's lines will show through any layers of acrylic paint scraped or brushed on top of it? I use this effect quite a bit in my work to create midtones and to play with the opacity of a drawing. Another fun thing you can do once you've created this midtone is to go back in with white paint or any other sort of paint and create highlights and lift out the lights in the piece. This allows you to lend a lot more depth to an otherwise pretty flat line drawing with the parallel pen. Just a neat trick I thought you should be aware of, and I hope you try it and enjoy it. Give it a try. I think.
Do you ever mix way too much of a color and then feel really bad about just having to get rid of it or use it up, knowing that you're going to need it again? So I have been saving my old paint tubes and using this syringe thingy to store my extra paint.
So if fan art is illegal, why is there so much out there? Why are companies allowing this? Most of it comes down to value. Letting people make, share, and post fan art builds a strong fan community that in turn adds value to the copyrighted material. So unless you're doing something to hurt the value, like making negative or obscene fan art, or making products at a large scale that directly compete with them, many IP holders will look the other way. Another reason there's so much fan art out there is that there's just too much for them to take down. Though technology is helping a lot of brands identify copyright infringement, every day more and more goes up. And just because you see things posted doesn't mean people aren't getting takedown requests.
This is my foreshore art block cure. All you have to do is paint simple shapes, then ink right on top of them. Don't think about it, just draw, let the juices flow. If you do this, please do at me and show me what you did. I'm really excited to see what you guys do.
Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to baby watercolor. You don't have to baby acrylic. You don't have to baby oil. You don't have to baby any of your materials. Get in there, scrub things around, make a mess. Don't be afraid of losing anything, because whatever you put down before, you can find again. If you did it once, you can do it better. That's what I'm doing here. That's how I approach any painting. I'm not precious with it. I'm not worried about messing up. I put color down, I put line down, I see what sticks, I see what works. If it doesn't, it gets lost. If it's fantastic, it sticks around. So don't be precious with your work. Get in there, make mistakes, have a lot of fun in the process.
So I've got some tips for if you paint using tape. So the first thing you do after you lay your tape down, make sure you press those edges down, especially in the corners if the tape overlaps, so that there's no gaps. But of course, bleeding happens. You can't avoid it. So what you do is take advantage of that by putting down a layer of acrylic paint on top of the edges. And I'm using white because the tape is actually protecting a layer of white paint already. So when it bleeds through, it will match the color that it's protecting. So as you'll see here, I really push the paint under the tape. Don't be shy about that. You want it to bleed through. But then after you do that, make sure you smooth out the edges. And then same thing when you're adding your color, do not be shy when you're painting on top of it, but also don't forget that you're painting on top of tape. You can't just put it on there like you normally would. You don't want to have any hills next to the tape, so after you lay your color down, go over the tape's edges like I'm doing here. That way everything is smooth and there's not big clumps next to your tape when you pull it up. Also, I get asked about when I pull the tape up, whether I wait on the paint to dry. It really doesn't make a difference as long as you have sealed your tape properly. You're going to get the same result whether you pull it up wet or dry. So this is the background that I did for this piece that I'm currently working on. Really clean lines, looks really good. And I have done a checkerboard before with no tape, and it just takes way longer.
I recently started making a few of these pins, and so I was going to start making one for my friends, and I thought I might as well show y'all my process. There are quite a few different Shrinky Dink papers. I use Rough and Ready just because it's the easiest to use with colored pencils, and that is all I have. With Rough and Ready, there is both a shiny side and a smooth side. On the smooth side, I use Sharpies to either outline a drawing or just freehand something. This is one for my friend. They really like this jellyfish picture. Flip. Now that we are working on the rough side, we can actually use colored pencils. So let me fill this in real quick. By the way, if you are going to be layering colors, for example, I need these parts to be a little bit darker, you want to work in reverse. So like, let's say you'd put black on afterwards, you have to put it on before. Flip it back over to see how it looks. Come back for part 2.
How to draw a pose. Blue for the rough sketch and red for the line work. Line of action, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. All of the blue lines will be drawn lightly so that you can adjust as need be easily. Just keep shaping it until you have a nice form for the outline of the body. Now for the red pencil. Trace over the blue with the red pencil with the lines that you want to stand out the most and for the final line work. Oh no. And there you have it. You can go back and do some details like shading if you want to.